probably one of the most depressing stories I've read in a long time. It was written by The Guardian, and it's titled The Rape of Men. And it tackles an issue that isn't talked about enough with the media, with international organizations. It's a very hush-hush issue. And it has to do with war crimes against men. You know, men are captured as prisoners of war, and they are raped. And they're raped brutally, and in a lot of cases, either they stay quiet about it, or if they do speak out against it, national organizations that usually handle matters like this ignore it. And the reason why they ignore it is because, obviously, there are so many women that get raped, and there's so little funding to deal with them. And these national organizations, whether it's the UN or other NGOs, they look at funding for rape victims as a cake. Okay, it's like a zero-sum gain. If all of a sudden we start paying attention to the men, then the women who are using this funding aren't necessarily going to get the funding that they need. And I think that's a horrible way to look at it. I mean, you read this article, and it, you know, profiles all these different men that are in Eastern Africa, and one of them was captured and raped 3 times a day for several years.
Jean-Paul?
Yeah, Jean-Paul, and. Oh, God.
This
JR,
is the depressing part.
I know, JR, what are your thoughts on this story? I really wanted to get your perspective on it.
Well, this is the thing. The surprising part, and maybe it's not as surprising because I don't know the, you know, I guess the society factors that happens, but when it does happen, and the reason a lot of men don't admit to what had happened to them was because friends, family, wives that are around these guys leave them. And like, you know, you're no longer, what am I supposed to do now?
You're no longer a man.
You're no longer a man. After you get, you know, a gang attacked, like, you know, you're supposed to be like, you know, you're supposed to be the Incredible Hulk and throw 35 dudes off of you, you know? But, so that's actually, I think, one of the more depressing parts, because, of course, they go through a lot of physical problems because of the severity of how much this happened to them. And then there's the mental part. After you get away, or somehow get away and don't die, then you have to deal with the mental side of your just being shunned by society, as if you did something wrong.
And it's a very similar thing that women are facing right now in the Middle East. You know, they'll get raped, and rather than the person who is guilty of the rape, rather than them getting or paying consequences for it and, you know, getting prosecuted or whatever, the girl is shunned and she is put in shame. And I think that the reason why that happens is because, you know, there's a certain level of ignorance. And with men, since it's such a quiet issue, since people are so afraid to talk about it, people are even more ignorant about it.
Right.
And it just makes me sick to my stomach to know that these men are abandoned after they go through something so traumatic. So, you know, thankfully there are some organizations. One of them is known as the Refugee Law Project, and it's in Uganda. And they help victims of, you know, male rape. And, you know, a lot of these guys come in and they are just completely, their bodies are destroyed. And they go to doctors, you know, seeking help, and doctors turn them away.
Yeah.
So what do? You know, they go years in this horrible physical shape.
Literally, okay. I mean, Jean-Paul, who we spoke of earlier, he still bleeds when he walks. His wounds are so bad that he has to only eat soft foods like bananas.
He eats bananas. He can't eat hard foods. Like you mentioned, he bleeds when he walks. One of the people who works for the Refugee Law Project says that you can immediately tell when a man, a former prisoner of war, has been raped because they'll sit on one, you know, side of their bottom. You know, they won't sit like normal people sit, and it's because they're in so much pain and they haven't been treated for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And going back to the society part, which is the part that really bothered me the most. After all this happens, then they're considered less of a man. What are you supposed to do? If you admit it, you're, I don't know, the term is used basically, you're a little bitch. What do you know, how could you let that happen to you? Because there's such a masculinity thing that's pushed in a lot of these societies. So then after it all goes down, you're just kind of left to yourself and not able to admit it. And then the men who do it, the guys who commit who are the aggressors in these crimes, they're somehow not seen as less of a man for raping a dude countless times. Where does that, how does he become more of a man? How is that masculine, quote, masculine the way that they see it in certain societies? Oh yeah, my husband got raped. You know, what a softie. Oh, but my husband raped him. Yeah.
I don't understand
Where's
it.
the logic?
I don't understand it. Like
The description of that asshole, I'm sorry, the description of that motherfucker singing a witch doctor song with everybody watching, the commander of this group that captured, what, 11 other people with Jean Paul, began. And then he started, the guy vomited, the victim vomited, and then it just goes on with 11 other guys running like
11
a
other
train
guys
on
rape
this guy.
him. Exactly. 11 other guys rape him one by one, and as he's vomiting, they had him.
You follow this pussy. I'm sorry, he's a bitch.
He is.
God,
he is. Look, I feel the same way about it, but the most discouraging part about this story is we should not be the only people who feel horrible about it. You know, international organizations cannot look at rape and funding for rape as a zero-sum issue. Rape is rape, regardless of whether or not it's a woman or a man or who it is.